So, these are interviews about RP in general, RP concepts, improv, character creation, that sort of stuff. Not necessarily the specific story, unless we want to talk about it. It's basically whatever we want to talk about that's related to RP, and the goal is to hopefully make me a better RPer. I do think that's occurred over time, by the way, but also to look at the things that are going on behind the scenes for other people, show it to other people, and just share our community all together. So you are DrunkenSolution base, but there's what's up?
What's up?
No voice changer. Nice. By the way.
Well, the first, I was doing the whole voice changer thing for some time as Bune. It's the first and only character I have done that with because I have the, I guess, range that I can go ahead and do whatever type of voice I want. But I wanted Bune to sound evil so that he wouldn't be screwed with.
So how did you wind up here on Lost Legends? Like, what's your history with RP, and what made you, into who you are and that sort of thing?
Let's see. I first originally started out role playing on GTA, a GTA server called Midnight. And this is years ago. And then kind of got a feel for that, and I just kind of I have one of my best friends, Your Meat is Neat, who played Anira. So we've been kind of supporting each other through roleplay. So it's fun to meet friends through roleplay, and if they can help to provide any type of story, then that's something that is one of the best things that you could possibly do. Is you meet people and they help to create this story with you, and so then you have this moment where you just kind of it all sinks in. And so and then I got pulled into Conan.
So Conan and GTA, have you done other games also?
I've attempted like Dark Side RP for Atlas. I attempted to go on there. I wasn't feeling the game itself, so I kind of dropped out there. But who knows? Might be in the future.
All right. So never mind. Forget all these questions. I got more important stuff to ask you. First off, I think that I've said in a different interview that I think singing is one way to make characters really interesting, because you're singing through a character, right? So it's playing the character and then playing or doing the art that is the character and then doing the art that is singing, right? I don't think I'm a great singer, but it doesn't matter. Like, the characters have their own voices and their own entities, so I sing in order to push myself out of my boundaries and all that junk, right? So I did not expect Bune to ever sing 100%, right? And you sang a song in the voice changer as Bune, and it was I can't remember what it was, but it was very it was like some emo punk song or something along those lines. It wasn't what we normally do, which is the greatest hits from the 80s that everyone knows all the words to, and they're like, meh, whatever, bopping their heads. But it was a song that I knew every single word to. And at that time, I thought, this player resonates with me, not Bune necessarily, not whatever that was, but like you as a person. I was like, wow, I see myself reflected. Amazing, like I vibed with it so hard. Do you think that there's characters, or no, there's players that we don't know about, and obviously this must be true, but they're out there in the world, right, that we're going to run into. Are there ways that we can show ourselves through our character that allow us to find nor like people who are similar to us, is what I'm trying to get at, I guess.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
don't know. Crazy question.
No, it's not that crazy. Absolutely. The way that you interact with people, I mean, people can go ahead and change up their whole facade for specific characters, but there's always that little bit that leaks through, and it shows your true background as to the person who you really are.
Right.
So absolutely, I think that you connecting to me in that way, and in such a minimal way too,
Right.
actually resonated in a kind of an unexpected way.
Definitely. And to go on with what you said about playing with your friend, obviously I met her here. I think I've seen her name before in other servers, but like it never really stuck. You know, I don't think we had any interactions, but obviously you and your friend have worked through different servers and stuff like that. But you said it didn't stick for Atlas, and I'm the same way. Conan has not stuck before. I've tried other servers. It was great. It was wonderful, but it wasn't for me. How do you think we wind up sticking into things?
Really, it's a portion of it is just the game mechanics. You have to enjoy the game, but primarily, if you're doing roleplay of any sorts, you have to, you have to have a great back and forth. You provide information and kind of let people clued in to who you are as a character, and people will either pick up on that or reject it. It's it's not always for everyone, but I feel that the best way to say it is if you have somebody that's interesting, people are going to want to interact with you, much as like Barry. Barry was very interactable.
Right. Um, you think it also, like, I would say, I don't know this for sure, but there's a lot of people that I've talked to, especially in Conan, not really in other places now that I think about it, who say, yeah, I have this other person that I RP with, you know, your meat is neat. The people that I interviewed previously who are in relationships, you know, they say, yeah, we move from server to server, not necessarily together, but there's like that comfort, right? Because you're both trying it together, and you could talk about it outside of the game and share your experiences and stuff. I would assume you would recommend that, but how do you find that person? Because a lot of us would like a ride or die kind of person who will agree to whatever it is, whatever the idea is. How do you find that person?
Well, really, you find that person through roleplay, and if for some reason, I believe it actually happened with my first roleplay server that I did for GTA. Is I was streaming extremely heavily, maybe a little too heavily,
Hmm.
and then she became a fan of my channel, and then we started having some great back and forth, and she's just become such a great friend, and through that, our interactions through roleplay kind of developed into a great friendship. Um, sometimes people click, and other times people don't. So
Definitely.
you just have basically. I think one of the main things is if you if you do roleplay and you're feeling that connection, just be cautious. That's all I can give as a word of advice. You can go ahead and completely obliterate their existence from from yourself if you feel it's getting a little too not your style, you know?
Right.
Um,
Oh, go ahead.
oh, you're good.
I I think that, like, I would say we all think of ourselves as, generally friends in the RP community. But there's something different, something unique about being able to go to some specific person and be like, hey, remember when we did dwarves on whatever server? Let's do the opposite of that, and let's do elves, and we'll pretend like, we hate the dwarves, or that sort of thing. And they just agree 100%, and they go with it. That's really unique, I feel like. And I know I have friends who would do it, but I just wanted to try and get at anyone who doesn't feel like they have that, how to find that.
Absolutely.
Do you think it plays into what I've talked about a lot, which is telling people outside of character that they did a great interaction or whatever? You said it was through a stream, and obviously people come to my stream and tell me that stuff, but DMing people or using that RP commendation channel, is that sort of helpful, would you say?
Well, what I like to think is through the RP commendation, or if it's okay with both people, both parties, sending a DM, say, hey, you know what? I really enjoyed my interaction with you. We should continue to interact, or something of that nature, and just so then they're on kind of the same page. It's not, like I said, you just have to be cautious with the whole direct messaging. Be wary of yourself. Stay protected. But the commendation portion is a way to interact with the other person, to not actually feel like you're invading their personal space. So it's always nice to look at the commendation and be like, oh, I got mentioned here. Oh, why, thank you. That was great. That makes you feel good inside, that you're actually doing a good job.
For sure. Yeah, I've talked about that thing a lot. I really like that there's the whole channel that exists for it, so that it's weird that we are using a social media platform, but we are thinking about how we use it and stuff like that, and potentially being hesitant to send someone a message, even though technically that's what it's for, and they can turn that off if they so chose. But I like that channel a lot, even if there's meta in it, even if it goes beyond what it may be intended for. I approve of that channel so much. It's amazing.
Yeah,
I guess back to the basics and stuff. How do you create your characters, and what's the process you go through?
Oh, well, okay. So first off, I base my character creation off of what I actually want to do in the game with with interactions. Like for GTA, I wanted to be a doctor since I do have some medical background training. So I thought I would go ahead and create a very quirky nonsense type character that actually is, I don't know, kind of the lead in a lot of things. Um, that character is actually Dr. Flint Taylor, San Andreas Medical Services. So he was always kind of something that I thought he was going to be a one-off type character, and but he's stuck around for what, years.
That's cool.
Then I have then I started doing Conan, and the first few characters of Conan were very, oh, he's a very meaty meatbag jock. He doesn't speak a lot of words. I want to go and send for payment, something stupid like that. Then of course, that kind of developed into, I want to try building a ship on Conan. So I spent days, uh, possibly weeks designing a ship that looked great, that functioned well for like housing and workshop, all that fun stuff. And that's when I thought, okay, well, this looks great. This looks great. I got my finalized ship version. And then, of course, I talked to my friend, Your Meat is Neat, asked her if she wanted to be pirates. And she's like, hell yeah, I want to be pirates. Let's do it. um, of course, she doesn't talk like that. So that's when I created Willie. Willie of the seas, but he must be wanting to be seeing any sort of sense of that sense. You know, just your salty pirate, whatever.
Right.
He was actually one of my favorite characters. Of course, he lost his eye in a gamble. So he was One-Eyed Willie.
Of course.
So I played off of that because One-Eyed Willie, everybody knows. I kept on playing off of that, and then I thought, okay, well, shoot, maybe Willie will be somebody's comic relief. No way did I ever think that Willie would actually be tied into a main story and relied on to push through. And so that just like exploded. So and that was for Nexus roleplay for Conan. I guess it wasn't originally Nexus. I forget the server that I started Willie on. But he he was a leader, and then it got, as with many leaders, they say that it gets a little too hectic, too chaotic. I didn't want to be the mainstream view of anything.
Right.
Much like when I stopped streaming, I took a little sabbatical. It was just a little too much. I just wanted to be a character that could just be his quirky self, no huge character development, nothing of that nature. And that's where I come into making Bune. I chose Bune because I wanted to start learning how to actually utilize magic, because I knew how to be the beefy, sword swinger, axe swinger, all sorts of style of fight for. And I was like, I'm really curious about magic. Let's go ahead and create a character and learn about magic. So that's where Bune comes in play.
Well, I would say that I think that Bune had quite a bit of character development, I would assume. And that's something I want to, I guess, look at, because you told us in character, I'm working on myself. I'm looking to change some aspects about myself, which a lot of people, they sort of show it in some way that people may pick up on or may not, but Bune was willing to say, like, hey, I'm working on it, What, I guess, what were the steps that you took to change the character, and did you do that for maybe like a personal reason, like in order to make the character mesh well or go a specific way, or was it all like character driven?
It was absolutely character driven. Anything in roleplay is really character driven for me. Boone had actually created a, let's say he quote unquote created a ring, inscribed it in a name, and so that he could go ahead and change his physical appearance, like an overhaul of who he is.
Right.
So that's where Damien showed up, and as you know, that Damien was me, but I had the title under there as Damien, so that which um which actually kind of worked two ways. It it worked to see if people are name plating in a
Yeah,
way,
of course.
which I caught a few people name plating because it's still showing up above saying Boone,
Right.
but it also does say in my description Damien. Um, so I created Damien to make people feel more at ease because seeing as a demon character, you think that he's evil, he's heartless, all he wants to see is destruction and mayhem and all that fun stuff.
Right.
Not the case with him. All he wanted to do was survive, and that's where like I created a deal, like a contract, I guess,
I'm watching you
is
watch me, and I
the
like it.
contract, which was not really explained too much in character with people outside of myself and the person that I was creating this contract for, was that they would go ahead and take up this contract. It's a soul bind, so Boone would bind his soul to one specific person, unless unless the medallion that you can see in that picture that you have up there,
Hmm.
if that medallion is either removed, destroyed, or the opposite tied medallion is removed or destroyed, his soul would actually be in jeopardy. So I use that as a tie to kind of hide him, because Boone is actually a demon's name, um, and he needed to, and it's not his actual given name. I haven't actually disclosed what his given name was, so that's not his real name. But he stole it because he thought to be a lot more menacing. As you see from the two pictures on your stream, there's Boone just having a good time,
Right.
and on the right, that's Boone in cat form. Um, he primarily wanted to be in cat form because he thought, well, nobody's going to suspect a cat, right? When I first started out on LL, I was nothing but cat, and I would be quiet. I would just kind of sit and watch and listen, see if I could pick up on anything, Um, and then when he got more comfortable, he started talking in his cat form. And then when he was even more comfortable, he discarded the whole cat transformation completely.
Right.
So he's a demon that is actually a cat, because we all know that cats can be assholes. So why not?
Okay. So I obviously met Boone at least halfway through, definitely probably closer to the end of the whole story. And I saw Boone mostly as a demon type, humanoid type person. But I would say that while Boone looks exactly like a stereotypical demon, he's not what I would predict to be a demon. Like, as you said, his motivations were different. He's also smaller, I feel like, than many people would attribute to demoness or whatever. He's also, I guess, interested in different stuff. All of that. How did you, I guess, decide, or what was the motivation behind making him look stereotypical but not be stereotypical?
The motivation was that, like I said, a portion of your role play character that you create is a little bit of a self reflection of yourself. So you have to be you have to role play at something that you're comfortable with. I'm not a terrible guy in real life. So for me to originally, like as like for my first Conan characters, where I was just a typical brute, extremely unintelligible, and just dim-witted in all aspects. I couldn't really reflect myself in that character, so it didn't really tie with me personally. Now with Boone, he uh, he reflected my personality type, um, and he wanted to portray the fact that he is a demon and kind of have these little idiosyncrasies about him. Where let's say Boone would always go out collecting rabbits. Now, I role played in character that was his favorite snack. But in truth, behind it, he developed a sense of like I guess originally he really did like rabbits as a snack. But the character developed to where he actually grew a fondness of the rabbits and then paid tribute for the rabbits. So like what he would try to do is save the rabbits to make up for
Okay.
his misdeeds because he was trying to improve himself.
Right. Yeah. Like I said, a lot of what I saw out of Boone was growth, and even what he said was change, growth, all of that stuff. And I know that we all look at that, we think that our characters should grow and our characters should change, and we try to do it, but I don't know if anyone, because I don't know a lot about stories, I guess, of people, but I don't know if I saw too many people change as much as I saw Boone change, even in the amount of time that I knew him, in a way that seemed completely plausible. Like, it seemed like that was the story that was coming out, and I think it was a great example of growth and change, and challenging a character to be something else. I guess even with the Doctor, that's true too, starting as a monster hunter and becoming a monster healer. But I guess I didn't notice because I didn't know the beginning stuff, and I definitely noticed with Boone. So I think that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah,
As
I mean, there were motivations. I wanted Boone to interact more with certain people, so he changed um, a lot more than I was expecting, honestly. So he changed his appearance by having this magical ring, um, to blend in a little bit more, to make people feel more at ease,
right.
and to be more interacting with him. And until my until my roleplay got completely destroyed, towards the end of everything, where I had I guess I was as Damien, and I had somebody run up to me and say, "Oh, hi, Damien," or should I say Boone? I'm
Right.
like, "What?" So that's when I discarded Damon completely. So that kind of ruined my whole story arc on that one. Um, it anything like that, it 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 kind of blows when you're trying to develop something, you're trying to change something. So at that point in time, Boone took off that ring and chucked it into the river.
Right.
It's like later. That was his whole transition was, all right, well, this didn't work. See ya. You know?
Yeah, and then uh yeah, after a while I did see him only as Boone again, the demon. Um
Hmm.
you know if there were any other demons, cuz I don't know of any.
Oh yeah, there were a few other ones.
Okay.
Some of which I can't recall their names, unfortunately. Um, but I do recall, you had Succubus, or you had um other demons that were tying in people or making a contract with someone to take their soul to empower them,
Right.
you know. But realistically, out in the belief system of any of that, demons, there's all varieties of demons, or what
Right.
can be considered as demons. I don't know a lot about demons myself, so it was kind of interesting to like try something different. But yeah, it's interesting how everything can be, portrayed or developed or discarded in that
Of
sense.
course. Do you think that we should have the amount of investment into characters that we do have? Obviously, they make for great characters, but there's a lot of us who get maybe too invested in our characters, and when we should perma, we don't perma, or when we should change, we refuse to change.
Well, with that being said, it's kind of up to the person if they want to perma. If they feel that, I feel that if there is growth, if there's like story, then don't don't cut your character out too quickly, because like some interesting developments could happen. Um, it can be it could be kind of, well, it would be extremely devastating if like for some reason somebody's thinking about re-rolling their character because they're not feeling their character, but other people rely on their personal stories off of your character. So it kind of works in both ways. Is that, yeah, okay, we get it. You're not happy with your character. Do what you need to do to be happy, personally. But it does also take away from a lot of story development between your character and someone else's if there's something else going on. So yeah, it's interesting. I've had story development where I was kind of hoping things would go one way personally, but then somebody decides, oh, I'm going to promote my character. Um, so then that kind of shuts down my side like 100%.
Right. That
And
also.
honest,
Go
I was
ahead.
just gonna say it sucks.
Yeah. Well, that also happens when people don't have time to play or lose interest in playing or something like that, right? Like,
Absolutely.
but we can't fault them for that. Hey, that's their choice, right? So, um,
It's their choice.
that is a
That is
very
their
difficult thing, yeah.
Yeah, it can be difficult. But in the end, it's a we have to realize it's a video game, and we're creating stories for each other.
Right.
And I don't fault anybody for doing what they need to do to make themselves personally happy. Because first and foremost, my thought is you come first before anything else. Make sure that you are happy and of sound mind, and stable to be able to provide any sort of experience for anyone else before you can, you know, even worry about it. So
Right.
before role play, before anything, you have to take care of yourself.
So what I'm hearing now is check yourself before you wreck yourself. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I guess that would be pretty accurate.
Okay. So, as a Conan doctor yourself, because I think you're pretty experienced with Conan, I gotta say, um, why do you think there's such an adult theme to the RP that comes through? And there's so much innuendo, sex, relationships, that sort of thing?
Um, Personally, myself, if I were to say anything, I do it to get a rise out of people. I like to do it to fuck with people because that's just kind of how I am. I make awkward situations more awkward by expressing other people's interests in each other. So that's just a personal satisfaction is just watching people struggle and try to get through. One of the main things I've always tried to do, especially with Willie. Um, I would create these little fake stories on the side that I would make up on the spot and try and break them and just make that was a goal.
Yeah.
Um, but along, it was nice to have that comic relief as well. Um, doing a role play as a doctor or cleric or what have you, it it does. You have to know your shit. You have to at least try. So you're going to be a lot more invested. Any sense of wanting to help provide role play for other person who is just trying to help them to create more of a story arc for them as well.
So the things you say again resound in me because obviously I'm a similar player. I play similar things. Not Boone and the Demon, but I'm making up a lot of the stories along the way. I'm making up all the incidents about the carriage. I'm making all that stuff up like improv, right? Do you think that Conan leads towards more hero characters, more very self-sufficient characters, and how have the characters that weren't that way fit into the world that you've played in the past?
Oh, okay. Well, it's interesting for like each chapter of any server that you go to or character that you create. Um, a lot of times I don't try to be the standoutish person at all. All I try and do is do right by everybody else who's either in my clan or who is in my clan. Um, so I try and make sure that they're satisfied because that's what I enjoy is just trying to help them out, have fun. Um, but it's like when people try to PvP or try to be Billy Badass. I'm gonna stomp you or something.
Yeah.
It I catch myself or like rolling my eyes a lot. Like, here we go, another one.
It's like talking to myself. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know.
And what's great though, I find people that are not interested in fighting at all. Much like Kelly, she didn't come across as somebody that I thought was much of a fighter, but I looked to her as this amazing doctor that can help out, and that's why I try to create a little story arc for her as well. So that was when I was attacked. Boone was attacked by arcane magic for no reason. It downed him. So the way that I develop it is like I have a little 20-sided dice sitting right next to me. Set my goal as to is Boone extremely hurt and roll it. I was extremely hurt. So I tried I kept rolling along the way while I was walking home because he was injured.
Right. Okay.
And then at some point he just passed out on the floor and couldn't move anymore. And I wasn't going to move until somebody actually came upon me and saw that I was passed out. And then I created, I guess I created two different lines of story. I had Lord Galligan, played by my buddy Corseal. He found my body, Actually, I think it was Hazelmere who found my body first because she was visiting, and I almost made it home, but the dice spoke different.
Yeah.
Um, so Hazelmere found my body. She ran back to Lord Galligan, and Galligan picked me up and took him to Kelly and her other medics, and now they had this whole story, or this whole line of story, that they were trying to save Boone's life. You know, so in a way, I feel like creating story for people is actually part of my enjoyment.
Yeah. I had a similar thing occur. They told Barry that the volcano was interesting, and I was like, cool. I've never played Conan before. Let's go look at it. So I walked into the volcano as Barry, and I play with no HUD, so I'm not paying attention to anything. And like the heat alone downed him, and repeatedly over and over downed him. And like, that's fine, that was my bad because I wasn't paying attention, right? But when I finally made it out, I did the same thing that wound up happening to Boone. I collapsed, but the difference is I chose that. I didn't allow, you know, the randomness of a dice roll, because that's not something I do. It's not something I've practiced. And also, I do know that the dice rolls can give you, you know, scenarios that you'll never expect. But I didn't want to be fine, you know. I didn't want to be able to walk back. I wanted it to be someone comes to find me, and that's exactly what happened. Twig came to find me. It was this whole funny scene, whatever. And so you use dice and I don't. Would you advocate for people to use dice if they're willing to sort of maybe let their characters go, or, you know, or leave it up to chance?
That you know, see, now that's a kind of a tricky situation. Is you can leave it up to chance and nobody would find you. Then you have to take it upon yourself to decide. All right, well, does this mean my character is dead if nobody had found them within a allotted amount of time?
Right.
So that's of course all up to yourself, as to how you want to roleplay it out. Nobody can tell you how to act with your character. That's what you feel. So I'm glad that somebody found you, and I'm glad somebody found Boone, because we both had stories to continue talking and sharing with other people. You know,
Well, let me give you a third scenario. Zekros, who plays Oscar, is a great role player, and he uses dice, and he sets up like time limits for things. You know, if something doesn't happen in a certain amount of time or whatever, so he does that stuff, right? So he told me in stream that Oscar was wounded in the last battle, right? Like, heavily wounded. And he played out that he was wounded, and like he made noises and stuff in a big group of people at the last battle, and he set a time limit on if he could get care in an amount of time, then he was fine, and if he couldn't, he died. And he put all that stuff, just he just let it set up, right? And then I was on streaming, and his character like lays down, you know, you see it on my screen, but I'm obviously not paying attention. And what was happening was he's literally bleeding out to death as a warrior in front of a ton of people. And finally someone went and got him, but like unbeknownst to all of us, there's this incredibly tense thing happening, and his character is like about to perma in front of all of us. Is that amount of tension, do you think, worth it? As someone who does occasionally use dice and stuff?
Well, in the land of roleplay, Dungeons and Dragons, Conan, Atlas, anything of that nature, if you do go by the rule of the dice or the rule of the die, then you have to live with the consequences of the die. But you can either choose to ignore the die, or roll with it.
Yeah.
That's where the expression comes with,
Right.
It's worth it because you can actually think of it this way. Let's say for some reason you're using a die and you're critically injured. And you want to see if you survive the attack. You
Right.
roll a critical low. That would mean that your character did not survive, and then you create a story arc for other people. So now, as you saw, Nellie, she created this whole I guess like a graveyard, a remembering stone, remembering tree of the people that had passed. So it created a story arc for Nellie to be able to provide that and give some sort of remembrance. So, of course, they either I don't know what their outcome was, if they re-rolled or if they stopped completely, because real life comes first and it should always be coming first. It can be worth it to help provide story for others. And then you can go off and do whatever you need to do. You need to take care of your real life issues, or you want to try something different, create a new character. That's the interesting thing about roleplay, is that you always have the opportunity to move on, move past a certain person. Maybe you're not feeling a connection with your character so much. You want to try something else. And so that's just an opportunity for that to happen.
I think perma's scary, because I like characters that I play for hundreds of hours, obviously, or I wouldn't play them for hundreds of hours. And it's scary to perma and stuff, but at the same time, like, you're right, I have a bunch of ideas, like next character. I've got 3 or 4 characters that I'm willing to try, at any time, and I just pick one, and that's the one I stick with. Have you gone through that experience of permaing and stuff?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
several times.
And were those? You think they all were when you should have done it, and
if the story arc kind of leads up to it, such as like I was critically injured, or let's say, for example, I created a one life I created a one life rule for a character of mine on GTA roleplay, and let's see, how did he die?
poor whoever that was. Dang.
So he lasted maybe I want to say a good 5 hours.
Oh.
But in GTA RP, it's a little bit chaotic. I mean, you want to treat roleplay as how your character that you created would actually see everyday real life. That's what part of roleplay is like, don't do anything that you yourself or your character would not do. But unfortunately, my character at that time ran into a group of gangsters who decided, oh, see, what we're going to do is take this person and we're going to go rob a bank of sorts. You know?
Of course.
So my character, he. This is before I created my old man character, Grandpa Morty. That character was kidnapped within a few hours of me playing, and held up in a bank hostage situation. He was then, it was the bank robbery wasn't going their way. The police were outside and trying to negotiate the safe return of me, unharmed, of course.
Uh-huh.
But the gangsters, they didn't want to be having any of that, you see. And they used me as a human shield. I guess things went wrong. My character died. Done deal.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean,
that was a kill off character though. I wasn't trying to progress him at all. So it depends on if you like with role play. If you feel a connection with your character, you should roll with it and just like see how it goes. If you want to be a dice roller of any sorts, just be prepared with the consequences. It won't always go your way unless you have a loaded die. So that's
true.
That wouldn't be. That wouldn't work out too well.
You mentioned Red Rose, of course, before. So I got two thoughts about that. First, Sorciel is your friend and your meat is neat. Did you know the other people who were there ahead of time, or was that an organic bring in of those people?
There was one other person that was a part of the group that I did know ahead of time. That we brought in, Lord Foxycorn. I'm sorry. Was it Lord Foxycorn? I can't remember his name's Fox. We call him Foxy all the time. And he played Amita, and he's a dear friend. He is a dear friend, and and this is why I don't even remember his Discord name. I always call him Foxy. He's a great role player. He's fun, and we brought him along as well. Then people just kind of needed a place to stay, so we provided that experience, because the way that we always try and do it for any sort of role play is we want to provide a safe, secure, fun location, and not to feel obligated to do anything that they're not comfortable with themselves. So that was kind of a way that we can provide a safe haven, if you will. And I know that was back with Red Rose. I wasn't wanting to be in charge like I had been so many times before. So that's why Corsail took up the reins and tried to create the whole story arc for everyone. It's a safe haven. We were on the same ideas and beliefs of making it a safe haven, a fun and enjoyable place, so that people can actually develop their characters and have story progression. So,
okay, so yeah, there was I based on the number of buildings, I would say there were 10 people at one point living there. Mm-hmm. Is that right? Okay, so that's cool to grow, from 4 as a core, organically pick up more people. That's dope. I'm gonna say that Tavern RP is a joke. Because it's very often stereotypical. Everyone has a tavern. Everyone sets up the same sort of, space. But I think that the Red Rose Tavern was different, especially the iteration that I first saw, because there were so many unique things to look at the whole time, and it was small-ish, so it felt very cozy, right? Like, if there's 4 people in there, they're all sort of, rubbing elbows and stuff. And I think that space was great, and that's why I kept coming back. Do you have any thoughts about getting outside of the script for Tavern RP and making more unique spaces and interactions for it?
Oh, absolutely. Now the tavern, well, actually, I want to say 90% of Red Rose was actually built and designed by our very own Your Meat is Neat, and I always praise her for how well of a job that she creates the building. It looks amazing, and then she also decorates the inside. So all those chairs that Barry was skipping through, trying to find his favorite chair,
Right.
that was all her idea. So she's a very talented Conan decorator. I'm sure also on Atlas. I'm not quite sure the extent of decorations that you can do on Atlas. Like I said, I haven't had that much experience with it, but she doesn't. She definitely has a flair for design, and I'm ever so grateful that I am her. I'd like to consider one of her personal friends, and you know, co-conspirator to rule the world through roleplay.
Well, even in not just the setup, but the way it was hosted, I guess. We ran a restaurant, and we very much wanted to do real restaurant stuff. So we had a kitchen that was built to be functional and all of that stuff, and we found that people weren't interested in sitting down, having meals provided and described, and unique sauce poured over their food and like all of that stuff. People weren't willing to put time into it, and I think that the way the Red Rose Tavern was hosted by people who were willing to stand there and provide food, and then to come around and deliver food or drinks or whatever. Unfortunately, I was hanging out with dead people who didn't do any of that stuff, or Barry only drank tea, so I didn't feel like I could super engage in it. But I will say that it did seem different than the normal stereotypical joke Tavern RP. Did y'all intend that? Did you focus on specific aspects of that?
Oh, we we absolutely did intend that. Like I said, personally, my experience is to make everybody else's experience enjoyable. Meat is also on the same page. She really wants to provide story for herself as well as others. So if it was people came in, she would always greet them. I would try to do the same as well, unless I'm out farming. um, and the way that we kind of roll with it is we want to be that is the difficult thing about the whole tavern roleplay aspect, is to be a successful operation, you have to be available,
Right.
much like as in a clinic or what have you. You need to be where people can find you, so you can't be off doing everything all the time. And that's what she really was great at, was staying in one place. No,
Right.
no, that's not what I mean.
I agree 100%, actually.
She
But go on.
created a
Yeah.
place for people to come and visit, and they would know that, hey, there's somebody here. And she creates a very nice experience for anybody that does try to create any sort of story arc. What if you come in for just to socialize? We were always able to do that, and that was a lot of fun. That was a good moment until the town got destroyed by death claws.
Right.
And that's that other picture I had sent you of basically the aftermath of Red Rose Town, all in plague fire.
I see. It was just green and grass. I was like, I don't know what this is. It's not your character. It's just flames.
Yeah, the green and grass. That was basically the entire town just getting destroyed by plague fire and plague bombs. Now, Corsil made a deal with the admins at that time to create some sort of story arc where, if we wanted to move out of that location, I feel it was not a great idea because now nobody knows where the hell we are.
Right.
We would go ahead and destroy the town and then move everybody to a completely new completely new location. But it was a bit devastating.
Right.
But we rolled with it. We made sure to go along with the story to help provide any sort of story arc with the death clause and to create a service story. So after they destroyed our town, of course, the whole story arc of the death clause destroying towns came into play. It's like, oh, we took care of the Red Rose Town, and everybody. I can't do his voice.
Yeah.
Just be warned, everybody else is going to be up next or something danger zone.
Danger zone.
So we created that whole story arc for everyone as to where now, hey, take the death clause seriously. Well, heed their warning. Do what they want if you don't want your town destroyed. So it created. I think that was kind of fun to be able to help to push along more of the server story.
Right.
At that point in time, I almost missed the attack. I was off doing IRL things. I had to go take care of stuff. I came back and I was greeted upon waking a plague barrel right in my face, and it went off.
Perfect.
So that's when I was actually taken to the clinic. I think my mistake. I think that I was actually taken. Actually, I was watching the chat, the Discord chat, Twitch chat. When Hazelmere had originally gotten me for that whole thing, she did correct me. It was Katya who actually helped me at that time. Dr. Keeley was the one who helped me after the plague attack. So my apologies on that.
Gotcha.
And I was rolling with the dice at that time. I was wondering did Bune survive? Luckily enough, I actually had a large enough roll that Bune had survived, but wasn't really so much a person of interest. He was never supposed to be in any sort of relationship roleplay, anything of that nature. He was just going to be a collector and provider of knowledge for magics. So, yeah, I mean, it was an interesting story arc.
And you did touch on one thing that I haven't talked about this time, and that's because I don't know, but I can explain it in Atlas, if you will. This concept of the pattern. I've definitely talked about how we stand in circles, how we introduce each other, and how we do the tour junk, and like we have to do it in order to continue our stories and keep everyone involved. But also, a lot of us feel it's real played out. But to give you a different scenario, in Atlas, there's this thing where you load up on your ship, you cruise on the ship for 20 minutes, an hour, who knows how long it takes. You get to where you're going and they're not there or whatever, so you walk around for a while, you fire your flares, whatever, and they're not there. So you try and hit a couple places, you know, in the area, and they're not there. And then maybe you sail back or you get pirated along the way or whatever. And they're not there because they're out meeting someone, trying to get, you know, whatever. And when we did our restaurant, we had times posted on this board, we are open from this to this, and we were always there, and people would not roll up, which was very frustrating. And so when you say, like, yeah, Anira was great at being there, 100% you should be there. You should be in your house or be in the place where you work or whatever. And I feel like I got caught up in the same thing when I was playing Barry on this server, because it was very much in full view. People would go to other people's houses, hope they were there, and then if they weren't, they would leave and hit the next house, like trick-or-treating or some junk, trying to get RP. And so I want to say, like, when I rolled up to the tavern, I expected people to be there, and often Bune was there, or Anira was there, or even, like, freaking a Witcher walking through town. I was like, whoa, I don't know you guys, you know, that's weird, but you were there. And that's the way it should be, I feel like. And how do you think we should balance going out and searching for adventure and searching for RP and being in the place where people can come and find RP? You know, where's that balance?
I think the best solution for something like that, which is has been proven time and time again, is for anybody that wants to create a restaurant, a tavern, or trades of anything that utilizes your skills and techniques. Send out letters, notifications, advertisements as to what times would be available. And of course, you have to make sure that the person who is sending out these letters, who's going to be responsible for it, are going to be available at those times in that specific location. So that at the very least, if anybody does come by, they should be able to see, hey, there's somebody here. Great. As promised with the advertisement, they're here, you know?
Right.
Now for I know for Red Rose, we didn't really have a set schedule. We did have the tavern open advertisement that I created, but that was only for that one time, and I was not requested to make any more advertisements. So we didn't really have a set schedule ourselves. So I think it's just more so, yeah, just create a schedule for yourself where you can actually be available as promised on the times that you're putting up. And if not, then maybe you shouldn't be doing a restaurant or tavern or anything of that nature.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When people start seeing that somebody's not around during the promised times, that's going to make others not interested in wanting to come by because you're unreliable.
Right. It also takes from other people, I would say, because everyone has a tavern. Perfect. Every tavern you walk into, you're like, who cares? Everyone has a tavern, right? But if Red Rose has a tavern that's staffed and willing to do food RP and cook and like talk about smells and junk, that should be the focus for people who are trying to wind down after a fight or something. And the other taverns that no one's using because no one's ever there, should that even exist? Should your town have a tavern if no one ever goes in? I don't think so.
It's to have a tavern. Now, like, people will create taverns or restaurants for Conan specifically, to hopefully draw in the roleplay, so that there's one set location for anybody that needs to that wants interactions for roleplay. And just like any other games, any other scenarios, stories that you read, somebody goes to the tavern and, oh, this person wants me to go acquire something for them. That's great. Go, let's do it. Quest accepted.
Right.
But it can be a little disheartening to see that so many people do try for the tavern idea, and then they're not available. Like right now, as we're talking, I do have Conan loaded up on my new character. It's a healing character. He's just meditating, let's say that, inside, but he's available and not actually doing anything. But you have to be. It can get boring. It could be dull. But you have to, set your times. Like I have a sign that says whether I am in or out or sleeping or what have you. So I try to make sure I stay on top of that at all times. And it's just, you just gotta make sure that you have the availability and the expectations.
Yeah, I streamed. I only RP on stream, so that everything I do is above board, very no meta, whatever. And also, I want to provide my point of view and my opinion. And so when we did the restaurant, I know I'm stuck on this, but like when we did the restaurant, it was very very quiet, very boring for a while, because it was only the restaurant and I didn't have a lot else going on until we did some more stuff with some other characters, and we grew the place that we were at into a second usage. And like I felt like I was streaming just a view of the way things should not be, like I was there ready to do restaurant stuff and no one would come, or they would come and they would try and buy food and leave, like buy a bulk order. And we would say, no, we're an actual restaurant. You come in, you sit down. We had menus, up, and we would like say, look at the menu, pick out some stuff. We would have them sit down, and then we would go back and actually cook their food and like talk about the food while we cooked it and make noise and stuff. But people weren't into that junk, and so it's just like the people who are actually there, like you said, the people who are doing medical stuff, and they're there because you need to be a place to help someone, or you need to be a place, you need to be staffed. That stuff is all really important, and I wish more people would do it, but also I understand, going out and trying to get it. Because if we all go out, then we're screwed. And if we all stay in, we're screwed. So the blend has to be, something. There's got to be a blend, right?
Absolutely. That's where the whole aspect of take care of yourself first, set up a schedule that it would work for you,
right?
And unfortunately, like, you could miss out.
Yeah.
Would you be missing out? That is the that is the question. But that's a part of roleplay. Is you just have to you have to roll with the punches. Roll with the
Yeah.
dice.
Speaking of numbers, I guess technically, how do you feel about stats and gear and all that stuff?
uh okay, for I like the conversation we had before, some people are not wanting to do the whole combat situation. Others are primarily wanting to be taking care of medical roleplay. It really depends on how you want to develop your character. For stats wise, I mean, I could tell you stories on what you should try. You want to be you want to be a little bit more stronger. Uh, you seem a little slow. Let's get you. Let's work on your agility here. Something like that.
Do
Um,
you think? Well, I mean, the answer's easy and obvious. Let's make a point real quick. Do you think you should use all the points that you're given at max level?
uh, I say if you don't use it, you lose it.
Sure, but like, okay, a demon, yeah, definitely. Be strong and healthy and all that junk. Like, I approve. Should Barry be able to take the same hits as you naked? Or I don't know about naked, but or swing a sword as hard as Bune or any of that stuff?
I'd say that if you trained yourself, let's say you have the whole aspect of training yourself to get to that point. Sure, absolutely. I mean, Boone doesn't have any special. He didn't have any special powers other than the ability to use two different types of magic. That
Okay.
was fire and blood magic. Through role play, he gave up his blood magic because it made somebody uncomfortable.
Right.
So he gave it up. He actually gave it to Nellie to for safekeeping. She had a nice little hidey spot. So that's where my magic had remained for the longest of time. But Boone still utilized fire magic.
Right.
So he was at half energy or half magics because he wanted to give up his power for someone, and that was how the story just kind of progressed.
Right.
So it's like you taking you giving your sword up, like the sword that you relied on, are great at using. You wanted to go ahead and protect yourself a little bit better. Um, that's like you taking your sword and locking it away, but you still have to punch your way through the enemies that come at you.
Right. Well, so on the magic thing specifically, we did a test. Barry was like level 45 maybe at the time of the test, is my guess. And Oscar is 120, great at magic, whatever he was. We both cast the same spell because we both happen to know that single one spell. At Twig, who is weak to Shadow or whatever that spell is, right? And both of us did the same rough amount of damage to Twig. And Barry had no real knowledge about magic, and he had no stats in anything at all. And he was able to like deal a ton of damage to Twig, way more than I should have, for sure. But I was also like one-shotting freaking spiders and like killing junk with magic that I couldn't kill with any of his shape-shifted forms or any of that stuff. So, is like I didn't put any of those points in. I feel like I shouldn't be able to do any of that stuff. And Barry's also a retired old man who'd never fought, right? So it made sense, but it didn't make sense for him to be that strong. And it really felt wrong when she was like, oh yeah, you do about the same amount of damage. I was like, oh, well, we shouldn't. So do you not agree that someone who is a weak person shouldn't just shouldn't use all their points or something like that?
If that's the way that you want to role play out your character, then
Ah,
you definitely could do that. That's dependent on you. Do you feel that you are at that point? Yeah, it's really it really comes down to it. What do you feel that your character would be appropriate for? So that is based off you and the people that are putting these. So let's say for Barry, for example, you say that Barry was an elderly man who was not really used to any sort of magic. Like let's say you started to do your your shape shifting magic, and you're just starting out. If you want to role play it out that you have full knowledge and you're strong as hell in that shape, then that would be up to your decision.
right.
Um, but if you also want to role play that you're learning magic, maybe put a point in, or like every hour, put a point in every day. It would be a
Right.
long process, but that could be a potential for like saying, okay, well, I'm learning this, and you can create a role play scenario in that sense.
For sure.
So that is completely dependent upon how you feel that your character is progressing.
Well, talking about fighting and all of that stuff, and I guess progressing to the end, Boone wasn't at the last fight. I don't think anyway. Uh, the battle and the admin story and all that stuff. How do you feel about um, first off not being there for the end, but um, you mentioned the ups and downs of being involved in the Deathclaw over time. So how do you feel overall about the admin led sort of story on the server?
You know, the admin led story, people have their positives and their negatives about it. The positives of an admin storyline is that, well, okay, there's a common enemy. We should all gather together. We should try and figure out how to best deal with this situation. So that creates I guess a story arc for people. If you're interested in helping, great. This is what we can do. Now, the downside about it is some people say that with this whole server admin storyline, story creation, it's they. Some people say that it is extremely, you know, conforming your role play with the wills of the server. Now, my personal opinion on this is it. I like how the story-driven roleplay is actually provided because it creates. Hey, we have a common enemy. We don't have to be
Right.
fighting each other. We don't have to go and create a tavern, one of 20, something
Oh,
like that.
low estimate. Nice.
That's a very low estimate. But even still, I mean, it creates an arc for how to best deal with this situation that is a common enemy.
Right.
And so that's how people can get together, talk, have their meetings, one of 1,000, bajillion, whatever. Um, Everybody's entitled to their own opinions on it, of course. But I personally feel that I do enjoy the story-driven the service story-driven portion of it because it gives us an opportunity to work together and provide even further roleplay. But I feel that you know, if it wasn't for that, well, then we're just kind of just coexisting at that time.
True.
And there's going to be a lot of shut doors and a lot of a lot of emotes, of them doing things that we don't want on stream or anything like that. So it's that, or having a common enemy that you can gather together and do something with. No. Currently, I'm a healer, and I just want to be there to help provide more of a background story for people to, if they need a healer, boom, healer.
Right.
If not, no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Well, so as you're talking, like, Barry was a joke for sure, and I had no intention to play him for very long. Just like your GTA experience, I expected a very short joke, and then I've said, yeah, I wanted to continue, but I felt wrong. If I initially thought, like, this admin thing is not for me, this story-led stuff is not for me, I don't care about fighting, I don't fight, I don't gather, I don't do any of that stuff, so it doesn't matter to me. This whole set, this whole scenario doesn't matter to me, and it doesn't matter to my character, right? And so Tourniquet just said that getting involved or not getting involved is RP, right? People are going to come up to you and say, hey, help us, fight with us, whatever, and you're going to be like, nah, I don't do that. Or I saw the person whose name I can't remember right now, and I apologize, but they remind me of Chitara. Give me one. Oh wait, I can look right here, I think, somewhere. Dang it, I sent them a message. Okay, played by Anchovy One. I don't remember what their name is.
Anchovy One. Mm-hmm.
Kashara, that's it. All right. Kashara, right? So Kashara is a very strong fighter, but not involved in actually fighting, only a healer, right? So yeah, sure, that could happen, but that also didn't apply to me, right? It didn't make sense. But at the point at which I shifted and I said, this joke can no longer go on the way it is, it must change, I need some reason to change, it was so easy to just look over at the server story that everyone's been talking about. Everyone's talking about the Deathclaw, everyone's talking about being attacked. I witnessed a murder in front of my own eyes. It's so easy to say, I should fight, I should change, I should use this, and then boom, it was so easy to move into looking for training and asking about gear and all that stuff, because I had the option, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Do you think that there are ways that the server can be given lore, or can be given a story, or can even have these admin interactions that aren't so strong that make players like me who don't want to get involved feel like outcasts, not that strong, but still give us that option to at any time engage?
Oh, absolutely. One of my friends, Riza, she is a story creator. So what her job, from my understanding, and I apologize, Riza, if you're watching the stream and if I'm butchering this 100%. Her job, more or less, is to create a story to where she can still interact, but also provide the experience for everyone. So it is absolutely very possible for you to create a story and have more than enough people involved. Try to have a pleasant time with everyone and just do your thing, do your natural thing.
Haha, jinx.
Oh boy, what are we gonna do with you?
So Ryza is Ivania. Ryza is the person I have said over and over and over this weekend probably is the reason that I continue to play. She is the one who took Barry when she found her, said, "Ha, this is a funny joke. Let's go somewhere else and perform the joke again," but also got me set up with contacts, introduced me to people, and didn't let them just go through the script. Like she said, "Hey, here's the joke, here's the introduction junk. Bring him some clothes, pick out some clothes that make sense, design the clothes," and those are the clothes that Barry wore for weeks because they basically designed the character look for me. All those people who were standing there, and you know, she gave me the contact of the leader of that town, and I eventually joined up, and you know, it wasn't just a tour, it wasn't just introductions, but she like pulled me through into playing a whole character. The whole time I wouldn't have done that without her doing that.
Yeah. She is a great role player and great story provider. She's a good friend. So at the moment, actually, I'm playing with Ryza on a new server. We were checking out. If you don't mind me name dropping,
I do not care personally.
Okay. The server that we're all playing on right now is called Lotus RP. And it's pretty nice. She of course is she chose to be a barmaid, so she's not in charge of anything except for the bar. And she teamed up with Gloin, who was the bard in LL, since LL is down right now.
Right.
They went ahead and
actually
they
not
joined
down.
up with us. Not down.
Right.
But the story has pretty much,
Ended.
stopped.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Just wanted to be super clear there because I'm about to ask about it. Heads up.
Right.
But carry on.
Gotcha. My apologies on that, everyone. Don't want to freak anyone out. So yeah, she and Gloin created a tavern over on this server, and so far it seems pretty nice. I mean, they were part of the household that I joined up with Your Meat is Neat. Of course, we role played it out that I was answering an advertisement for someone.
Right.
And then we kind of all, at some point in time, Gloin and, or his name is Wade. His Discord name is Wade, of course.
Yep.
Wade and Ryza, they went off and found their own place to get away from the birds that are chirping. And created a tavern where where they're easily available to get access to. So that was actually an ingenious part. They Wade, aka Gloin, was doing his research and watching where people were traveling the most, and determined, well, I think what we're going to do is build up in the snow because, one, I like the crackle of the ice, and two, we get a lot of traffic. So let's do it. So they went ahead and they separated and they started doing their own thing, and that's great.
Yep.
It sucks when your friends decide that they want to go ahead and separate or what have you.
Right.
But there entails, go with the role play. Don't let any personal feelings about it get in the way of your enjoyment.
Speaking of sucking, when people split off, Bune, as far as I know, you sort of tabled Bune maybe a week or something before the last fight, maybe longer than that. As far as I could see anyway. But as you know, the server is still up. And I normally do these things in the interim in between. I normally once the server goes down, whatever day that is, that's the day that I start the interviews, right? But like I gave it a chance, you know, to say like, oh, the stories are going to continue or whatever, but groups, like large groups at a time, start hitting, you know, I'm leaving as soon as the last fight happened. And I feel like the way I play, the leech idea and the need to provide role play in order to get whatever I need, I felt like there was no way I could achieve the role play anymore because like I'm willing to sit for several hours and wait for someone, and it seemed like that was all I was going to be doing, walking around looking for people that weren't there and then sitting and waiting. And I can stream that, but it's boring. Like, you know, there's no point. So what do you think about how all those people left? Not you specifically, but all those people left, and the server's still up, but very few people are able to continue.
Well, personally, it comes down to go where the role play calls to you, you know. People decided to continue with their stories and move to another story, or utilize, oh, they were driven out by the wars of another land, something. It is unfortunate, but people go to different types of servers to either continue their story, try something completely new, and just try to get a fresh idea on this. And how it happens with server to server sort of scenarios, when people start dipping out and you see less and less of people, or there's really little to no development for any sort of role play, which is extremely unfortunate. I'm sure that you've been in a portion of experiences yourself where you want to role play. You want to create something for your show or on Twitch. You need that content.
Nah,
There's no
forget them.
content to be provided.
For sure. This is the first time where I was like, I can't do this because there's nothing left. I gotta say, normally I'm in a different position where I'm more comfortable, and so I can, like, I create my own space by the end of a season where I can exist all the way through, right to the very end, with almost no one else because, you know, of who I surround myself with and stuff. And this was sort of new to me, where, like I said, I've never started the interviews ahead of time. So, and also, I am here to RP. I'm not here to stream. I just stream to show off. So the RP of other people.
You show off.
To show off the RP of other people. Okay, hey, there was a pause there for the record. But yeah, like.
Sure there was. I'll let you have this one.
Okay, thank you. But yeah, like. And let me point out, it's not always the end of the story. Normally, you know, in Atlas, there is a pacing, and it's about a month and a half where, you know, you get into clans, you have your story, people drop off a little bit, so the clans all move and shift into each other, then they do some more story stuff, then there's probably a fight, and then it ends, right? And that's why we were so surprised at the server being up for 4 months, because that's that's the same pattern over and over again. And I'd like to point out, I played for a month and a half, and I saw it playing out, that same pattern where, you know, a bunch of us start, then the same pattern that I just said, it occurred, and that happens over and over again. So it's not just like, hey, the story was over on the server, so a bunch of people left. It's more like that can happen at any time. But you know, you're saying, hey, there's other servers and people are trying new stuff and all of that junk. So, like, I get it, I understand. I don't know. It just sucks for some people, you know.
Yeah. No, yeah. I agree 100% on that. It does suck for some people, but some people like to roll where the role play is. They want to continue to develop their characters because they may not be done with their story. Other times, people get bored of the constant struggle to worry: are we going to be hit next? What's going to happen with my character? People leave because they don't want their characters to die, and it could very well be possible that, oh, well, there was a huge crack in the world and the world blew up. Boosh, done.
Yeah.
So how are you supposed to roleplay that? Oh, we got out just in time.
Right.
But people move on for various reasons, like an argument that they had that they weren't finding favorable. You don't want to have to roleplay with any specific person in question. You want to get out and just create a safe space for yourself.
We saw it in Atlas. There was a big group called Kindred, who, a completely full company. I think company max was 40, so there were 40 of them, and then they had like a little offshoot because, you know, max, that they hung out with, right? And they were so powerful on the server and on the seas that everyone you ran into was tied to Kindred. And it's the same thing that we saw with, and I'm going to say a bunch of names that you don't know, and that's fine. You know, sorry. Hey, it's the same thing we saw with AR. It's the same thing we saw with Blackwake. There are these big companies that sort of dominate things, and everyone feels like, oh, I'm being smashed, you know, by this thing over and over again, this huge company, and the little people are pushed out and pushed away, so people stop playing, right? But when people stop playing, Kindred and these other places, they don't have anything to RP with either. So they don't have their antagonism anymore, and they have one last battle with the Navy, they have one last battle with their enemies, and then all those people vanish too because they finished the story. There's nothing left for them to do, and then what's left is all the little people who stuck it out and weren't involved, and they all sort of just get together for the end of the season and ride it out, you know, into the sunset. And that happens in other games. It's not because of the admin story. This one just looked different to me, and I was surprised, I guess, that it happened in a different scenario, you know?
Yeah, I get that completely. As I'm reading your Twitch chat here, Sandian had actually said that 20 people, or my theory is at the very least, possibly 20 people left the lands within 30 minutes after the fight.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people were looking at that the last of the fight, the last fight that had happened was, you know, it was the story end of it all, and so that now they wanted to go and move on to another server and continue with their characters and continue with their story, whatever is of their interest, of course. If they want to keep going with it, what they've been doing, but now there's no longer a scenario to where okay, well, there's not one entity that you have to protect yourselves or worry about, and get to the point where you have to come together as a group. Um, yes, I'm sure there were lots of role play that was involved afterward. I'm sure that would have been great to hear the stories. Um, Boone took a little bit of a leave. I role played a scenario with the person I was tied to. Your meat is neat. And I role played that I went back into the crystal that she was wearing, so she's keeping me hidden and safe. So that's since like a lot of my story development and story arc kind of just got one destroyed because of the whole name plating stuff. Um, and then two, just like my story progression and my story arc that I was working for, just
Uh-huh.
nothing happened from it. Because, well, Boone is Boone is a demon. He doesn't know how to interact with people's emotions, feelings, or desires, or anything of that nature. So he doesn't know these things. you know. So he was never somebody to be in a relationship with, because it just he's like, you know what? The best way I can describe it is that he was a child. He was a child and didn't know how to actually do what other people would expect. You know? But from that whole story arc, I decided, well, I'm gonna shelve him for a little while, and try something different. So he's actually not dead. He's in hiding still.
I don't want to out anyone, but we talked about Anira's clothes. I talked about it to, I don't know, someone in DM. I can't remember who it was. I don't know if she was wearing a crystal though. Not to,
No, she was wearing it on her wrist. It was a little bracelet.
wrist.
It
All
was,
right,
it was a little bracer that had a little red
I'll go back
crystal.
and look. I'll go look.
Uh-huh. Actually, if Meat's still in the if she's still in the chat, her
Uh-huh.
bracelet, yeah. Meat, could you send me the picture of your bracelet if you have a screenshot of it, and then I'll send it over to Hearts.
My conversation about it was, what the heck are these pants? What are these? What's up with these pants? I've never seen them before. That last time we were in the tavern, I'll check for a bracelet. I think that's interesting.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be the same type of amulet. Actually, I was trying to get her to wear the same one, but
Yeah.
then she's like, that won't really work with my character. How about we just
Yeah.
make it into a bracelet? I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, whatever you feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
Boone was stuck in the
Boone's-
fridge.
He's got a magnet on his freaking
Yeah,
stone. He's just like stuck on the outside.
Yep. One of the
Dang.
four. Oh, but yeah, I mean, it's always interesting what you can take away from any sort of roleplay experience.
Yeah.
What Boone took away from that roleplay experience was, he was practicing or trying out the whole romance thing, see if there was more to existence than just trying to hide.
Yeah.
So that was, interesting. I didn't think that he would actually progress to anything like that. Boone wanting to be all in the romance. It's whatever.
Just to look at the concept of, building up a bunch of antagonism and stuff, and then going into the last battle, and then escaping it. I just think people were bored, and the only reason they stayed was for the last battle. Honestly, there was a lot of people who were very antagonistic. If you go back to even when I started, Tatsu and Candy and all the people they hung out with, that they didn't make it even like a whole month into when I was playing, they switched to new characters or they went to other places, and I think a lot of that is due to the fact that 4 months is a long time, and if your pacing feels like, you know, a month and a half is a good amount to tell a bunch of a story, and then you want to try something new, then, you know, you're gonna drop out and you're gonna try new stuff. And then, you know, if the admins say like, hey, yeah, we're gonna do we're gonna do this, then maybe they stay just for that. Hold on.
Absolutely.
How much am I? All right, I don't want to hold Discord on view. I don't normally do that.
Yeah. So Anira, your meat is neat. Anira, she went ahead and sent me a picture of her wearing the little gem that is tied with Bune.
Uh-huh.
You see? Right there.
I will admit there might be a stone on her wrist, okay? Maybe.
But yeah, so at the moment, Boone is hiding in there, and I have to tell her, Anira, stop having so much damn sex. Jeez.
Of course. Like there's a difference between I just can't imagine playing a character for a whole year, like straight, one character nonstop, and logging in every day for multiple hours and not feeling like I gotta play something else, you know? So even 4 months, that's a long time. I only have one character that lasted that long, and you know, there's a lot of reasons to wipe a server because, especially in Conan, apparently it gets built up and there's a lot of mod junk and like all these changes. So they were gonna have to wipe eventually, I believe, especially with the random stuff that was happening. It happens in Atlas too, where the mods and every time you touch something, like it just builds up and builds up and builds up until eventually the server's like, oh, I'm gonna just die right here, and then you're like, oh, this server needs to wipe, you know. And I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm not saying that a bunch of people didn't avoid a fight, but I will say that there's probably some people who were just bored and left, and they only stayed to fight.
Yeah, and you know, there's a lot of people that actually come for the battle, which is great. I mean, there's so much more to roleplay for different servers, such as like creating a story. I mean, yeah, okay, you have a main antagonist that you need to gather together and try to fend off and protect others, or join them, or oh man, I can tell you a story of that one. But then there's other people that are just trying to create a story and like live out their lives as they want to. People come to roleplay to not be a part of the drama, but I feel like it's a separation from the daily struggles in life. You know?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's entertainment at its core, right? Entertainment is to release the stress of things that aren't entertainment, or to move you from feelings of not entertainment to entertainment. So, you know, we're RPing to have fun, we're RPing to tell stories, we're RPing to be creative, or all of that stuff, even if it's serious and drama, right? And it's hard to say like you should have fun on your character and then say, oh, a bunch of people left and my character was taken away from, you know, because you still want them to have fun too.
Yeah, true, very true. But then at that point in time, you have to feel that you're being entertained as well.
Right.
Otherwise, you know, what's the point? You come on and then you have to deal with extreme drama or anything that makes you feel uncomfortable, and you shouldn't be expected ever to fall into something like that. First and foremost, I always say you have to be enjoying yourself before you can do right by others. You know.
Yep. And also on that, let me just say, on record, as far as I know, there is no stream drama for my stream. People who come here are generally people that I know, or they're people that I think are great RPers, and it's they don't necessarily say a lot often, but all that stuff is normally positive, and so I just want to take that time to appreciate that from all of you hoes. I appreciate that.
Such eloquence and know how you said hose.
Yeah, well, that's the thing I say a lot of the time, and I want to be really real. I try not to say that, and I try not to say junk while I do interviews, but for the record, like, yeah, that's the realest I can get. All this junk, I don't care about, but you hoes are great. Yep.
Oh, jeez. You're going to hell, and Bune will see you there.
I mean, I don't think so, because that's the harshest thing I could possibly say. So, whatever. If you don't like it, you're in the wrong place. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And that's cool too.
It comes down to it of enjoy what you're doing, or else it seems more like a job, and it doesn't become fun at that point in time.
Shouldn't have said it. If you were offended, I apologize, but I don't think any of you really were.
Oh, everybody! Oh, your chat is blowing up. Everybody's so offended.
I know. Okay. It's fine. You know what they say, these hoes ain't loyal, so what are you gonna do?
Oof.
Anyway. Do you have anything you wanted to say to Conan as a whole, or this server, or new players, or any of that stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a lot of things. You have another hour?
Yeah, I will go pee and I will let you have this if you want, for sure.
No, it's okay. I need my little break too. So I'm holding it in since the start of this interview.
Perfect.
So what I could actually suggest, if you're new to roleplay, give it a chance. See if it's like, if it floats your bag. If you like creating stories, you like being a part of a story, you like any sort of character development, you create somebody. This is completely fictional. You can either recreate them after your own self. You want to try a new experience that you may not have the opportunity in real life. That's what's so great about roleplay, is it gives you an opportunity to try something new. Now, if if you're a continuing role player on Conan, I say shit happens,
Yeah.
And we can't always get our the story that we want 100%.
True.
And sometimes you really just have to roll with it. And if it's not your forte, there's other servers. 1, 2, it's going to be, how can I say this? To develop anything that is long lasting, you have to have a good connection with somebody, and the best way to do that is through roleplay.
Yeah.
The other thing, let's see, what was the other thing? Continuing players.
Uh-huh.
Don't feel like it's the end, because 1, there's always extra chapters. There's always extra chapters. The people, the administrations of the server, like let's say LL for example, the administration on LL, they are trying their very best to make a great experience for everybody, and I cannot be more grateful for their time and their effort and the amount of work that they do put into it to make sure that everybody else is having a good time at the expense of their own. Um, people, I've seen people give like servers or specific people a lot of shit for not conforming with their own personal wishes, but realize they're people too. So treat everybody as a person, and you know, roll with the punches. Roll with punches. Jesus, that's gonna be my
Dude. Again, it's like talking to myself, man. A bunch of the other interviews, I kept saying the same thing over and over, and I was like, I can't stop, help me. So I'm right there with you.
Yeah. Well, like Heart, you have access to me. You send me a DM anytime that you want. I am more than willing to communicate with you because you're a good person.
Thank you.
That for the most, actually, I don't think I have anything bad to say about of anybody who I actually interacted with. LL.
I actually agree. I also don't think I remember any time where I was like, man, that didn't seem right, or whatever. There might have been a couple times where, you say something to someone who's running and they continue to run, but we don't know what was going on, right? So I don't think that's a negative, necessarily, and that's the worst I could think of in this whole season. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Which is extremely uncommon from my experience.
Sure is. Yep.
So, on behalf of myself, and I'm sure several other people, I can't express how grateful I am to have the opportunity to actually be a part of the server, be a part of the server story and other people's stories and lives. And it's a fun experience if done correctly, but in a safe manner, of course.
Right.
And I take to heart every experience with everybody that I have actually interacted with in a very, I guess, nostalgic way, where I feel grateful that I have the opportunity to actually play with people and are like-minded individuals that want to actually have fun, create story, work with the story, and just take this as a getaway from the struggles that we have in our daily lives. Because if we don't do that, then what's the point, right?
Yeah. And thank you for talking about your experiences and all your thoughts and all that stuff. I appreciate it.
Of course.
I'm going to go ahead. Wait, go.
Oh, last question for you though.
Oh, question. All right.
Did Barry ever find his favorite chair?
Yeah, so Barry chose, and I definitely told Anira which chair it was in the first tavern. It was one on the stairs. I thought it was really well placed. It had a view of the outside as well, even though the windows were kind of scuffy. And you could also see down into the tavern area. I thought it was a great space. People had to walk past. The best chair in the other tavern, the second tavern that was built, was the one that had two of the same color cushions. All the chairs were unfortunately the same, but that place had the ability to look both directions. while you were sitting in it, so that it kind of made sense. So I could look at performance area, or I could look at the door. So that is the chair I chose in that place.
So you had two separate favorite chairs, but one of
Correct.
each in different taverns.
Correct. Because one of them got blown up. So what are you gonna do?
This is pretty true.
Yeah, like every time that you get the opportunity to do stuff, for real in RP, you definitely should. So that includes me, and that includes my dumb characters. And if I say something in character, it has to be valid, to the character. And so he literally did walk around and test all the chairs. He literally did walk everywhere most of the time until I got magic. That's all real stuff. That all happened, And I saw it in other people too. The interview with Spoofy, the changing into clean clothes, getting rid of clothing and stuff like that, that's very real to the RP, and that was true everywhere, all over the place. I saw characters doing really mundane, really real stuff. And that's what I was pointing out with the tavern. That's what I was pointing out throughout this discussion. Those details are amazing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's why I know which chairs, okay?
I like how you had that full circle there.
Yeah.